Last year, the Council consulted the public on the installation of a bus gate in Wapping, aimed at reducing the amount of rat running through Wapping from traffic on the highway. In the consultation report, 68.9% of Wapping residents wanted residents to be exempt from the bus gate, and only 22% did not. 68% of Wapping residents wanted taxis to be exempt, and only 26% did not. This is a two-thirds majority in favour. Tower Hamlets ignored this consultation and put up the bus gate anyway to exclude residents and taxis. 1,724 people signed a petition against this decision. 2 months on, I asked Wapping residents to comment through a local Facebook group on both the positive and the negative impacts of the bus gate on their lives, and this is what they said. On the positive side, the rat run and the traffic is reduced. It's more pleasant to walk around Wapping and easier to cross the road to reach the station. Parents walking to collect their children from Hermitage School during bus gate hours enjoy very few cars, and the 100 bus journeys are quicker and buses can enter the highway more easily at either end of Wapping. However, on the negative side, many angry residents also feel they are suffering under this new regime. The bus gate is not reducing total car usage, just moving it onto different roads, both in Wapping and onto the highway. Residents' cars now add to the congestion and the pollution at already critical levels on the highway, doing nothing to improve air quality in Tower Hamlets and significantly increasing travel time for everybody. The bus gate has split the Wapping community in two. Residents in the west and east are inconvenienced getting to the high street and the other side. 5 to 10 minute trips have turned into journeys of 45 minutes or more, as residents now need to navigate through the highway north to move around Wapping. Travelling to the city requires driving up Wapping Lane and adding pollution to the highway all the way to Tower Hill for over half an hour. Disabled residents are particularly affected because they cannot travel easily by car or by taxi, and wheelchair users can't easily get taxis. Able-bodied residents can't easily use their vehicles to help others in the community, like taking elderly relatives to the doctors or driving their children to school. And local businesses are being impacted as well, and the streets don't feel as safe as they used to. In summary, residents of Wapping cannot be rat runners through their own neighbourhood, and they are adding to congestion and poor air quality problems by joining the queues on the highway. The residents of Wapping want their freedom of movement back. We want residents' vehicles and taxis to be exempt, as we said when we were consulted. If taxis are an issue, why not make Wapping a poster child for a greener neighbourhood by exempting only electric taxis like Hackney did? Councillors are there to represent the wishes of the majority, not their own personal agendas, and we have said as a majority what we want. We support the bus gate, but we want residents and taxis to be exempt.
Thank you. Thank you. There are now 4 minutes for questions. Does any member wish to put a question? I've got Councillor Abdaullah.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good evening, fellow colleagues, fellow residents of Wapping. Nice to see you, Jane. I know we've been in touch from the outset of this bus gate. You talked in details. As a resident of Wapping, first and foremost, nothing to do with my elected position, I'm very much aware of having spoken to you and a number of other people. But first of all, can I say, I started this morning with a really positive message from a resident about the how calm and how safe, how wonderful. The mayor, who also is a resident first and foremost of Wapping as well, is fully aware of the peace and quiet of the High Street. Can you please go into details about the inconvenience to some, not to all, to some, especially working mothers or parents, and those with, and I've had people almost in tears about the lack of taxi availability, because once you call a taxi, you say, I'm in the High Street.
What is your question, please?
My question is the lack of inconvenience to families who are working and who have to use the transport to get around in their own ward, please.
Okay. I mean, it's very difficult to focus on one particular demographic that I'm not part of because I'm not a working family, but from observation I can see the impact. Say, for instance, I've got a very, very close acquaintance who is disabled and normally relies on Motability and a mobility scooter. And to travel in and out of Wapping, they would rely on going to the station, for instance, and they would rely on the help of their neighbours and friends to take them to the station and also to take them to the post office and to do little errands. It also impacts people during school times because they have to work outside of they have to work during the run time, so they can't take the normal, say, journeys to the supermarket, to the post office, and so it impacts people of many, many different abilities and different social statuses. It's not just something that impacts working mothers.
I see working mothers trying to get from one side of Wapping to another with several pushchairs and children. It makes things more difficult to move around. My daughter goes to school in the city, and to get there takes easily an extra 30 minutes longer than it used to.
Councillor Good, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As you know, Transport for London and the London highways, you have bus lanes and taxis can go down those. Do you not think that the council or whoever have organised this are remiss not permitting taxis to go through, particularly in view of the incident where there was the expectant lady who was in a desperate situation when the gate was initially opened?
I don't know about the issue of the expectant lady when the gate was first opened, but I don't know if you've driven on the highway recently. To simply try and join the highway with all the cars, all the residents' cars, and now all the taxis, it's simply a crazy thing to try and get around. It's delayed by 30 minutes, easily.
If anybody's familiar with the streets of Wapping, they're very quaint, very pretty. It's all very nice and cobbled, but not a place for a pushchair, a wheelchair, anybody with mobility issues, and anybody who just doesn't feel safe on those dark, winding alleys.
Councillor Dan Tomlinson, quickly. I've got Councillor Rabina Khan, but the time is up. Sorry. To conclude the discussion, does Councillor David Edgar, Cabinet Member for Environment, wish to address the meeting in response to the petition? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for bringing this petition. As the petitioners acknowledged, Wapping has faced dangerous levels of rat running down the historic but narrow streets for many years as people try to avoid the highway, and that's massively increased traffic in the area, but also meant more pollution along those roads closest to homes and schools, and understandably residents were fed up with that situation, so we as a council decided to act. The decision to bring in the bus gate has helped cut the rat run-in traffic. It's not only made streets cleaner and safer, but laid the groundwork for the wider livable streets improvements in Wapping. I understand that some residents in this, for this is a significant change, and that Busgate has meant some disruption, which has been described by the petitioners, which is why we're committed to listening to the feedback that we are getting tonight and at other times, and why this is called an experimental scheme, meaning it will be reviewed and can be amended after the first few months. Indeed, we've already made some changes to the original proposal. So the original proposal was to have a scheme which operated for 24 hours a day. The final scheme that was introduced is one that restricts the Busgate operation to peak hours only. So for most of the day and all weekend, there are no restrictions enforced at all at the gateway. This means that clearly there's rat running reduced in rush hours, but minimised disruption to local people at other times. We knew that, as with many changes of this kind, there were mixed views on the proposal, which is why we've always planned to review how it's working. That review will be completed in March 2020, and I'd encourage people to get in touch and share their experiences, as I'm confident they will. So as well as looking at the results of traffic surveys, speed surveys and air quality monitoring, we'll also be reviewing those comments and making sure that we're very clear about the broad range of response to the scheme since its introduction. And what we'll also be doing is working with residents to explore further improvements in the form of the Livable Streets programme, which is planned for the Wapping area.
Thank you very much. That concludes the item. The petition stands referred to the Corporate Director, place for a written response within 28 days. And please, Councillor Rajib, do not use your phone with a flash. Thank you.